Hello everyone, good evening. So today we are going to learn another topic, and this topic came from the comment sections of the YouTube channel. Okay, that what is the alternative of connect file? Okay, because many people are upgrading their applications, and when they are like touching the rules where connect file have been used, okay, so they are getting that this is deprecated. Okay, so what is the alternative? So alternative of connect file is Pega have given a repository API. Okay, so that we can use it. So what we used to do with the connect file? So with the connect file, mostly we used to write a file on server locations, on server folder. Okay, let's say some XML or some kind of a data we used to write. Okay, and generate some output file. Okay, and then later that file can be used for further processing or for anything. Okay, now that Pega have given that list of API, you can see that. Okay, and that we call as a whole as a Pega repository API. And so we have an API to create folder. Okay, we have an API to create file, then we can get that list of all files. Okay, and then list files API. Okay, and then exist if the file exists or not. Okay, we can delete the file, and then is authenticated API means that we have access to that folder, okay, or that file system. So Pega have given that list of that. Earlier connect file was just writing that file, okay, and for rest other things, okay, we used to write our own Java code sometimes, okay, but here everything Pega have given as a API. Okay, so if you see, like, now next question is that what kind of a repository Pega supports. So as of now Pega supports, like you can see that JFrog. Okay, so I put on the image like from the Pega itself. Okay, so I like JFrog, and then Amazon S3 which supports, and then Azure, Microsoft Azure file system, like repository whatever we have, and then file system. So file system is still the local one. So let's say if you're still on premise and if you want to get rid of your deprecated connect file, you can use the file system. Okay, so today I'll be in this class. Okay, I'll be using the file system only, but I'll be using through repository. Okay, so I'll be creating a repository rule. Okay, so I'll show you how we can create a repository rule and connect to the folder. Okay, earlier what we used to do in connect file rule, I'll quickly show you that as well. So we used to give the locations. Okay, so instead of connect file rule, we'll be giving that same locations in file system. But like, let's say if you're going on cloud, okay, so in that case you can use, depending on your organizations, you can either use JFrog or you can use S3, or you can use from the Azure as well. So let's go ahead and check in Pega. So I'll quickly jump here. So I have created a test activity which I'll be first showing that how connect file used to work. So you can see that I'm just writing param.test and saying creating file using connect file. Okay, so just simple text which I'm trying to write it to a file. Okay, and then create this file to some server locations. Okay, so I've already created a connector name. Okay, in this connector name I have given the server path. So you can see that personal editions and file, and the name I have given test.txt. So let's say I'll change test1.txt just to show in this class. Okay, so test1.txt. So I'll just close this one. So test.txt. Okay, like I'm not going into more details if file already exists or not. Okay, so just we are trying to show you that how it works, but you can see that we are getting a save one warning because this connect file is deprecated. Okay, and we are trying to get rid of this using repository API, and attach that link. So here you'll get all the details that for each API what rule you have to use, what all request parameter it takes. Okay, to either create a file or create a folder. Okay, so you can, it's a very easy one. Okay, today I'll be explaining just that how we can create a file and then how we can delete the file. Okay, so that much I'll just explain too, but rest of them is also easy. So now let's run this one and see that. Okay, so I'll quickly show you the folder. So here I have already mapped that folder. Okay, so if I quickly show you, so here this is the folder which I have mapped. Okay, so file. Okay, so currently we have a text file which I have already created and ran that. So you can see that creating file using connect file. So now let me run and see that we are getting another file on the same locations or not. Okay, so I'll quickly run this one. So yes, it is success. And if I'll come here, so we got another one, test1.txt, and then same creating file using connect file. So now we saw that we can create a file using connect file. Now how we can do the same work using Pega repository API. So let's see that. Let's go to that. So for that, what we have to do, first things which we need to do is, okay, so if I'll come to this one, okay, this repository API, okay, and click on create API. So this create API is saying that Pega has given a data page which we need to use. Okay, so I'll just copy this data page and I'll search that. Okay, so when I'm searching, you can see that it is asking for a repository name and file path as a parameter. So that means we need to pass the repository name. Okay, so that is a mandatory parameter, and the file path. Okay, so that means we need to create the repository. So let's go ahead and create the repository. Okay, so but there is one more things which you need to do before going to create a repository. You need to add a role, okay, in your access group, and the role name is this one. Okay, Pega rules sys repository administrator. So this is the role required to create the repository. If I'll remove this role and try to create a repository, it will throw me an error, or say that I don't have the privilege. Okay, so as I have already added this one, I should be able to create that repository. So where I'll find that repository? So we should be able to find it inside the sysadmin, and in the bottom which you can see the repository. So I've already created the test one, but I'll show you. I'll create here, and I'll, let's say, test repo. I'll just say test file system, something like that I'll give, because this is for the file system. So test fs, I'm just giving that. So here you can see that it is asking me to choose the repository, and this is the same I have put on that slide. Okay, these are the repository which Pega is supporting. So I'll just select file system, and here it is asking me to give the path name. So I'll just copy the path name from here. Okay, so C drive in personal editions where I've installed, I've created a folder called file. So let me just save it. So if I come here and show you, yes, that is the folder. See, personal edition, and then inside file. So this is the folder. Now let me do the test connectivity. Okay, so I'll do the test connectivity. It's showing success. We can validate the repository as well, that what all things we can do that. So we can see that exist, yes, new folder we can create. Okay, so details also we can see that, but it is everything, it is saying good, so no issues. So now we can use this repository to creation of a file. So whatever we did using connect file, I'll try to replicate exactly the same with the new API. Okay, this repository API. So I was searching this. So best way to learn is that how to use this. If you'll go in history, Pega has given a proper steps that how you can use it. Okay, so Pega is saying that if I run this one, it is asking two parameter, repository name and file path. Okay, so in Pega we create a file in multiple ways. One is that we have the binary data, and then with the binary data we want to create a file. Okay, this is the one way. The second way is that you can have the object. Okay, so if you see here, you can have the Java input, Java io.input stream object. So with that also we can create. And the third way is that you have some strings and you just simply want to write into the file. Okay, or you already have a file, okay, on some path and you want to copy that. Okay, so there are like multiple ways, but the way I did it for the connect file, I'll do the same thing. So I'll try to write some string to that file. Okay, so how we can do, we'll see that. So if I run this one, okay, it's asking me two parameter, repository name. So let's say I'll give the repository name test.fs, and I'll say the file name abc.txt. And let me run it, and let's see if something is happening. Okay, so nothing is happening. Okay, because we need to do some more steps, because this is a savable data page. So if you just run, it will not work. Okay, and that is where Pega have given a steps that how we can use it. Okay, so it's clearly given all the steps and how to do the error handling. Okay, so you can either read this one, or I'll explain you obviously here. So if you see, what I did, I referred this one. I did a view reference, and I found it that like the first rule, px copy from repository. So this is the one of the activity which Pega is using. In this activity, Pega is using that d underscore px new file. Okay, so this is the activity. So px copy from repository. So this is doing little more things, but we don't want to go into that deep. Okay, so what I did, I just copied few of the steps. Okay, and whatever Pega had explained, okay, in the this one, in the history tab. So simply Pega is saying load the page with a repository name and and path of the file to be written simply, and set the file content. Okay, so what Pega is saying, okay, content can come from the object or py content. Okay, so let's say if your content is there in binary string, okay, then you can put that into py content, and if it is object, then you can put in py string. So what we will be doing, we will be using py contents. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, so what I'll be doing, I'll be, let's say, creating in front of you only, I'll be creating one activity, though we should not create activity, but here we need to use save database, so we have to create. Okay, or we can see if Pega is having any other functions that can be used to use this save database method from activity data transform. So let's say create file, I'll simply write. Okay, and I'll simply try to write. I'll just replicate. So but I'll show you here in front of you. So create file activity, create file, or I can say manage file. Instead of create file, we can say manage file or manage file. Okay, so now the first step, what Pega is saying, okay, that initialize this page. Okay, so let's initialize this page. So instead of initializing, okay, I can simply copy this one and do it here. Okay, so this is like just initialization. And if I show you what it has, okay, so see d underscore px new file, and then it is asking repository name, okay, and then target name, starting path. So file path it is same. So simply I can go and define that. Okay, in parameter, whatever the parameter we have, we can simply define there. So we can say repository name, and then second parameter from here is the file path. So this is the two parameter. Now when we are using that database, we need to pass these two parameters. So in place of a repository name, I'll say param dot repository name, the same thing. Okay, so I'm just updating that parameter, and then in the file path I'll be using this one, file path. Now let me copy and paste it here. So this is like initializations is done. Next things what we need to do, okay, it is asking to add in pages and classes. So looks like we need to add d underscore new file. Okay, so we can also do that same way, and then let's add this one here. Done. Okay, now next things what Pega is asking, that to pass a content, you need to set that value in py contents. Okay, if I go again back to history, so set the file contents py contents. Okay, or input a string. So here you can see that accept either, so this accepts either a base64 string as the file content, or java.io.input string object as the source of the file content. Okay, if both are specified, preference is given to the string. If none are specified, an empty file is created. So empty file creations, we will see that as well. Okay, if will not pass. So let's call that, okay, save data page. Now here we need to call that save data page, and we need to give our data page name. So we need to give this data page name, and then we need to give the same repository name in place of repository name, and in place of file path we need to give the file path. And let's see that. Okay, so we are done kind of. Now if I'll run, okay, and pass that repository name, and then let me run and show you. So if I'll just say test fs and say file manage file, something like that, I can just give, okay, file.txt, something like that. Let's run it and see that we are getting some error. Let's see what is that error. File path repository name, this is looking correct only, d underscore. Okay, so here also we need to give, okay, this is the same we need to give here as well. On the same page we need to run, because here we have initialize, right? Otherwise it will not work. So let's now run again. So still we are getting an error. Let's see what is that error. Okay, data page has error, cannot proceed with the save, the doesn't exist. Okay, let's see test fs. So it is complaining that repository what we have given doesn't exist, but it is there. let's run it again. Still it is complaining that database has error, cannot proceed, the provided repository doesn't exist. Let's see that. Okay, in parameter test fs repositories, this is looking correct only. Let me close few of the things and see why we're getting an error. Let me close and run it again. So this test connectivity is looking good. Test fs, yeah, this is correct only. Let me just make sure manage file, and in manage file here we have given correctly param.repository name, param.file path. This is looking correct only, no issues. Okay, so here I think we did a mistake. Here we need to write param dot, and then here also we need to write param dot. So this was the mistake. So now what it will do, it will create a so you can understand that how we have to debug as well, right? So this is another things which we learn, that if something is failing, and then file path, I'll simply say manage file.txt. So what it will do, it will create a blank file, okay, with manage.txt. So it is showing success this time, and we can see that manage.txt came, but it is blank, okay. So we don't have anything manage.txt. Okay, so now if you see, so we got a blank file, right? So now if you want to write that, replicate the same things what we did using the connect file, how we can do that? Okay, so let's try here. So we'll say property set, okay, property set, and here I'll say param dot test, okay, and I'll copy the same value what we were doing here. Create file using API, create file using API. Okay, so this time I'm just updating the value. Now I need to convert this data to 64 base, okay, and then we need to set on py content. So you can see that that property is already there if we are using the dx, that because we have already mentioned in pages classes, so it's coming from there. So just mention py contents, and then simply we'll go to expressions builder and search 64 base 64 base 64, and then we'll select encode. Okay, in this one we can just pass param dot test, because it is expecting a string, which, and then it will take the string and it will encode that. Now let's run and see that. Okay, so this time we'll get the manage file.txt, but what we'll see, okay, so data is still not there. Let me see if you're getting that. Let me run again and see if we're getting that in manage.txt. Yeah, I think we got it. See, we got it. Creating file, okay, using API. So we got that. You can see that, right? So this is what we are trying here. Okay, that basically we are trying to get that. Basically we are trying to get that the file, okay, using APIs, okay, instead of connect file. So basically we replace that. You can see that we easily replace. So with this way, if you are working on any upgrade project, you can simply replace. Okay, now we'll just try another method, okay, the delete one. So let's quickly see that. For delete, okay, we'll go again here and say delete API, and if I'll go to delete API, simply it is asking the file path, and then there is a recursive things is there, so that we will ignore for now. Repository name and file path. Okay, so I'll simply go and search that one and I run. So I'll say test fs, okay, and then here manage.txt, okay, recursive ignore for now and run it. Okay, so we should see that the file is gone. Okay, what happened? File manage, what is the name of the file? Manage file.txt. Let me see if I've given the correct manage. Okay, so I just give manage, so we need to give manage file, and Let's see, that file is gone. So we saw that, okay, quickly we saw that, okay, that we used API, and through that we managed that file, and we did two things, okay. So we deleted that file, and then we created the file on that server, on that folder, okay. And here we tried on the server folder, but you can do the same thing with repository as well, okay. If you have any access to, let's say you have access to a repository, right, so that you can do it, okay, if you have access to repository. Okay, so we here tried with repository, okay, sorry, here we tried with repository file system, but if you have access to a S3 or any other repository which Pega is supporting, you can try that, okay, and it's easy, okay. And this is how you can replace that connect file to using like connect file methods from, you can replace connect file method with the APIs, okay. So that's it for today's class, okay. Please try and let me know if you have any questions on anything, okay. And please do like and subscribe my channel, and please share with your colleague as well. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.